Hey students, I wanted to take a minute to touch base with you about the IDSL project. The IDSL project separates this class from some of your other classes. This class, Counseling in Schools, COAD 6406, is a service learning designated course. When you finish this course, the SL designation shows up on your transcript. That signifies to principals or other people who may look at your transcript that you have service in the schools, that you have had time in the schools and in school communities implementing service components of the work relative to school counseling. We think that's an important designation for this class to carry. But it means that the class is structured a little differently than other classes. You really have to get into a school. You have to partner up with a school counselor. And if you are currently working as a school counselor, that's great because you'll just do it there. If you're working in a school, I'd encourage you to use your school as the site for your IDSL project. And if you and your partner are not currently working in a school, then you will identify a school counselor that would be interested in partnering with you. And I can help you with that if you're having any difficulty finding someone. But for this project, what you will do, I'm always excited to see the work that the students do with these projects because they're very diverse. You identify a school with which you'd like to work. And then once you have connected with the school counselor and gotten to know a little bit about the school, you work with your school counselor to say, what's a problem here? What's a need that my partner and I might be able to fill? This is a great opportunity for school counselors because as school counselors, we usually have a list of things. Oh man, I want to get to that. I know I'm going to get to that. This is really important, or my students need this, or my families need that. But we're very busy. You are coming in with an opportunity to say you could help meet one of those needs. Now, you will only have 15 weeks for the course, but within those 15 weeks, you can do a lot of really interesting things and things that make a difference for your school. Not just now, but for the long haul. So for your project, you'll identify a school with which to work, you'll identify a need, and then you'll design an initiative that lets you try to address that need, that area of concern. In doing that, you're also going to say, okay, so what is it that I'm going to try to address? And how am I going to know that my work makes any impact? That piece is really critical to consider. And it's important for school counselors because in an era of more limited funding all the time, we have to be able to say, what impact are we making? So what impact are you making with your project? You want to be thinking about that from day one. I have students that sometimes will get to the end and say, well, how am I going to know I made any difference? And I really try hard not to let you get to the end with that. But we start out asking pretty early. We say, so how are you going to know you made any difference? Do you need to design your own survey? That sometimes can be an expedient way to go, but then sometimes it's extra work and there's already data that's going to be linked to what you're trying to show. So if you do something like you know that childhood hunger is a really critical issue that needs to be addressed at your school, and you design one of the Backpack Pals partnerships with the community agency, and you've got some people coming in and packing these backpacks, and well, then you can say there's some data. I know how many kids we're sending food home with every week. I know how many cans of food we're getting in each week for the food pantry. We have this process in place and we're distributing X amount. That's some data that's helpful. If you are a person who knows that truancy is a concern, then you can say we did these initiatives and truancy dropped by X percentage. And you would get your truancy data from your information management coordinator at the school or whoever manages the data at your school. Okay? If you know that behavioral referrals have been a concern because of bullying or fights in the hall or something, there's an issue related to behavioral concerns, and you design a lesson plan. So 5th grade is having a problem with behavioral concerns. We're having a lot of referrals to the principal's office, and there needs to be something in there before they get to the principal's office that solves a problem. And you say, okay, so I'm going to go in and do 3 or 4 lesson plans with 5th graders about character ed lessons, 30-minute lessons about getting along, conflict resolution. And then I'm going to have some kids, when kids have a conflict, have those kids referred to the school counselor first and then to the principal. Then at the end of your 15 weeks, week 14, you say, have referrals to the principal dropped? If they have, great. If they haven't, then that's something you'll talk about too. What you'll find is that for this project, you are not penalized if you don't have an impact, as long as you can show me what the impact was. If the impact was null, if you find that you didn't really have, your initiative didn't make much of an impact, that's okay. You only have 15 weeks. And what we know with a lot of our work is that we're planting the seeds. We plant the seeds, we provide some nurturing, and the true plant, that we see the progress later, right? That's okay. But you have to have the process in place for assessing your impact. so I can see that you've made the effort and you can determine what your outcome was. This is a really interesting project. It's hard to go wrong with it. If you put in the time and you make the effort to connect with your school and to identify concerns that are relevant, and you and your partner design an initiative that you think is going to really make a difference, you're going to be okay. I'm going to work with you to help you figure out which artifacts would be the best to leave for your school counselor later, because what you don't want is to have a drop-in project that you do some work right now and then when you leave, nothing else ever happens with it. If you do lessons with the class, then we want to leave those lesson plans and whatever other artifacts that help to implement the lessons with your school counselor. If you do a small group with a group of kids that have had these behavioral concerns, those group lessons, we're going to leave those with the school counselor. If you design the backpack pals, you want that in place so that when you leave, whoever somebody who worked with you on the backpacks, they take over as the one who implements the backpacks, right? Whatever we do, we want to make sure that our work is sustainable for the long haul. So for your project, you and your partner, your assignment right now is to choose your partner, find a school, and get excited to determine what can you do in this brief time to make a difference with those students. And I look forward to seeing what you decide. Thank you.